Hello everyone and welcome to the English Hour. Today we'll talk about pain, progress and growth. We'll talk about how pain might lead to progress and growth. We'll go into details and I'll be sharing some personal and professional examples, some stories with you on this topic. So let's get started. Well, the first question is pain bad? Because humans generally try to avoid pain because we do not consciously want to experience pain. It's painful, it's not a good feeling, so we try to avoid pain. But there are cases when pain is inevitable, and there are cases when pain is not necessarily bad. It might even be good. So, what are these cases, and is it okay to view pain as bad? So, for example, when you're learning something new, it might be painful. For example, you might not necessarily like math, but in order to get into a good program, in order to get into a good university, in order to pass the admission tests, you might have to have a good score in the math section. And in order to achieve that, you have to really set aside time for math. You have to complete a lot of math problems. You have to learn a lot of math equations. And in short, you need a lot of time dedicated to math. And if you're not enjoying it, it might be a painful experience. Maybe it's not your strong suit, but again, you need it. So learning something new might be painful. It's not necessarily about your classes. It might be a professional skill. It might be a sports skill, something that is new to you. And in those cases, learning requires change, and sometimes change can be painful. But in these instances, I think pain is not necessarily bad. Pain in these instances is a necessity to sort of progress and to grow personally. Another painful experience is going through dramatic events, going through a trauma, or going through a very difficult time. In life, there are times when things go wrong. There are times when we feel lonely, or when we feel really down, and it can cause a lot of pain. Or we might experience something very painful in our personal or professional life. And it's part of life. And when we are experiencing that problem, it's very painful. You don't want it. You don't want that situation. You'd like it to be solved. But there are times when we cannot avoid painful situations. And I think going through those situations helps you grow. It really helps you grow because you become a stronger person. It's true, it's painful, maybe it's not enjoyable, but I think it helps you grow because the person before and after that painful experience is not the same. You learn to deal with situations. And in that case, pain can be a way of learning. So, and there is also the pain of doing things that you do not necessarily enjoy. We all have this problem, either in our personal life or in our professional life. I mean, you might love your job, you might love your family, but there are cases when you have to do something you don't enjoy. Maybe you hate doing it, but as part of your personal or professional life, you have to do it. It might not feel great, but going through those situations, I think, helps you grow as a person. Because when you have the discipline to do something you don't enjoy, when you have the discipline to put out great work even when you don't enjoy the process, it shows that you're a mature person. It shows that you have patience. It shows that you have resilience. And most importantly, it shows that you have coping skills. And coping skills really matter both in personal and professional life. Because If we are raised as little snowflakes, all it takes is a bit of sunlight to destroy us. You know, it's okay to be fragile, it's okay to be sensitive, but we should also learn how to survive. We should also learn how to stand our ground in the face of difficulty. It's a part of our life. Sometimes we have to stay strong for our family. Sometimes we have to stay strong for our business. And, difficult times are inescapable. They are an ingredient of our lives. And given this fact, it makes sense to develop resilience, patience, and coping skills. So, I'd like to share a personal example from my dad. Like sometimes, our fathers tell us stories of their past, their childhood, and how it was in the past. So, when my dad was a little kid, like when he was starting primary school, he was in a village, and there was basically no car, no shuttle service to get him from his home to school. His school was in another village, and every day, as a little kid, he had to walk for more than 10 miles to and back from his school. And imagine this, like this is a little kid going to primary school, and it's cold weather, and it's a mountainous region, and he has to go from one village to another remote village just to get basic education. It's very difficult. Like I cannot imagine my daughter doing that. Like I'd be creeped out. But like my dad had to experience that situation, and maybe your dad, your mom, had something even more difficult. Like our parents, generally previous generations experience more difficult life circumstances. So it wasn't easy for him to get an education back then, but he completed his primary school, then high school, and so on, and he became a public servant. And then he was able to provide for his family. And I think after that, he had a relatively more comfortable life. But it was all due to his efforts, and I think also due to my grandfather's push to help his children get a good education. So that's an example from my dad. Like it was, of course, a difficult situation for him, but I'm sure he feels lucky that he had to go through it, and then eventually he earned his victory. Now, here's a personal example from my life. It's not as tragic as the one my dad had. Of course, I have difficult experiences, but I don't really want to go into all the difficult stuff that I've been through. So this is a relatively, say, soft, painful experience. So when I was in college, we had this etymology class at Boğaziçi. It was offered by one of our most respected and most knowledgeable instructors, Bülent Aksoy. Like, I think he's a legend in the sense that he has extreme knowledge of the English language, history, and culture in general. And it was basically like a walking dictionary. The class, etymology class, was really intense. Like, we had to learn so much. We had to memorize so much. I mean, I personally like learning about English, learning about the history of the language, learning about the Latin and the Greek roots and how they're used in today's language. I'm thrilled to learn about those topics, but the course was really intense and we were expected to learn so much in a very limited amount of time. And I wasn't enjoying it. Like, it was an intense learning experience. It was painful. I remember pulling all-nighters to to basically just get ready for the exam. I did okay, like my grades were okay, but they're far from perfect. And after years passed by, when I was in professional life, when I was working as a conference interpreter, when I was working as a translator, I definitely reaped the benefits of my etymology class because I was knowledgeable in very diverse fields, and sometimes I was able to use very specific terminology, and people would be surprised. And a painful experience in college turned into a very productive professional skill over time in my professional life. So, as I said, painful experiences can help us grow. Painful experiences can help us build resilience and coping skills. And pain is not necessarily bad. It's about how we understand, how we perceive fear, not fear, pain. It's about how we understand and how we perceive pain and how we respond to that pain. Because if pain leads to depression, then yeah, it's bad. But if pain helps you grow personally, then it might be beneficial. For example, it's even in our DNA. When you're down with an illness, you experience pain. But then, when you're trying to recover, your body, your immune system learns from that disease, learns from that bacteria. It develops immunity towards that bacteria, towards that virus maybe. And the next time you're experienced with that disease, your immune system can save you. You do not contract that disease. And painful experiences are like that. If you experience a painful situation, and after that, if you learn from that painful situation, if you develop mental and emotional muscle, that painful experience can give you immunity towards later painful experiences. So we should all learn how to deal with pain and how to learn from painful experiences. So far, I've learned that managing our pains and fears can really help us lead a better life, a more balanced, a more nuanced, a more fulfilling life. Because, life is not all merry. Life is not all joy. Sometimes you have pain, but if you know how to deal with that pain, if you know how to take advantage of the pain to motivate yourself, to push yourself forward, then pain can indeed be a great tool. Well, that's it for today's talk, and I'd really like to learn about your experiences and your responses to pain. As I said, it's really about how we respond to pain, and our responses to pain can really shape our personality. And as I said, that's it. Let's wrap things up, and I'll see you in the next episode of the English Hour.